But before that, so I will introduce myself. So welcome to this first webinar on accessibility and universal design in construction in humanitarian settings. I am Patrice Vastel, lead for the TIC project on inclusion of persons with disabilities in MSF. I am based in Norway, and I will be guiding you through this webinar. So I have with me today in the panel, I have Zeyad El Hennawi, who is our IT responsible in Norway, who will be taking care of the technical part of this webinar. So any technical difficulties or support, feel free to write it in a chat or to send directly also a message to Zeyad in case you have any technical issues. And Zeyad will be a precious backup during all this webinar. We have also with us Sani Muluao from Finland, who is our communication responsible in Norway for the TIC project on inclusion of persons with disabilities. And Sani will be monitoring the questions in the chat. We have Paul Cabrera from the Operational Center of Barcelona, Athens, with the construction and shelter referent. And we have also Cora Valois, who is our architect, expert in universal design, external to MSF, but offering her time and expertise in pro bono to MSF. So thanks a lot for that. Thanks a lot, Cora, for all the support. And they will both, Cora and Paul, initiate us about accessibility and universal design. But before starting the presentation, so we would like to go through some house rules, and I leave for that the floor to Sani. Sani, the floor is yours, and you tell me when you want I share the screen.
Thank you. You can start sharing. So, hi everyone, I'm Sunny. Hope you can hear me just fine. I had some mic issues earlier. So, as Patrice mentioned before, this meeting is being recorded and the recording is being shared for everyone who has registered for this event. And especially it's of course nice for those who couldn't join us today. And so we could see where everyone is coming from. So please rename your account kind of with your first name, last name, and the office/organizations you're coming from. For example, with me, it's Sanni Muluaho, MSF Finland, or Charlotte Dibanda Vaka, Cameroon, or Guralind, UNICEF. And of course, if you want one person, please feel free to put the kind of 3 people with safe distance in office in Oslo, for example. Then please mute yourself so we are avoiding the echo. And during the presentations, preferably keep your video off, so not overwhelming the connections if they are bad ones. But if please, in the kind of meanwhile, please feel free to put your video back on, and especially in the end where we reserve time for questions and discussion, it would be very nice to see you all and hear you take part in the discussion. Then there's the chat. Please take use of that. If you have any questions, put them there. If there's some kind of clarifications that come during the presentation, so we are taking them up already between the presentations. Otherwise, if they are kind of bigger discussion, we'll be having that at the end of the presentations. And we of course hope there will be plenty. I will be monitoring it and picking up the them, so don't worry that they'll be lost there in the sea of others. Please free to mingle. We kind of prefer that not have a kind of other debate going on there at the same time, and preferably let's take the common discussion at the end. Make use of the Zoom reaction buttons, so raise hands, thumbs up, yes, no. If Patrice is talking too fast, you can request him to slow down or speed up. And next slide. So we are having a live transcript on, which you can see at the bottom of your screen. This is for the benefit of the people, for the people of hard of hearing. So, but if you personally find it disturbing, you can put them off, or you can kind of hide the subtitles by there is the live transcript button, and there you can choose to hide the subtitles. Between there's also the reaction button, so feel free to leave with the subject, put a thumbs up, hearts, celebrate. Feel free to show.
Tout la violence en fini.
So that was my part. Next, Patrice, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Sani. So we thought about a small starter or appetizer. So for as a starter, we would like to tell you very shortly about where we are in MSF when it comes to inclusion of persons with disabilities and promote some of our tools. So that should take just 8 minutes in the overall session. And we would like to tell you also about our 90 minutes course on inclusion of persons with disabilities. But we will start with a poll to see a bit, to get an idea of our audience. So Sani, are we ready for a small poll? Yes, so you have now a question normally in front of you, which is asking you, have you already attended a course or e-learning on the inclusion of persons with disabilities? And you have a certain number of answers, so no or yes. And if yes, yes, with the course, the online course from the TIC project of inclusion of persons with disabilities. Yes, one of the workshops organized by the TIC project on inclusion of persons with disabilities. Yes, eventually, if you had a course from another organization, or no, you did not attend a EDIC course. So I think we have about 68%, 71% now of the people who are voted. We can give still a chance for most of the participants to vote. Very welcome, Jack. Nice to see you. Welcome on board. So feel free. So we see that we have still a bit of time for the poll. So feel free to fill up, to vote. We are still at 87% of participation. So Sani, let me know when.
I think we can now end the polling.
Okay, so we reach quite a vast majority, 85% who did not attend a course on the matter. So very, very nice that you are here, because we have definitely something more to offer. And we have all together, so about 15% of people who attended a course on inclusion of persons with disabilities already. So that is very nice to see. And really for the 85% who did not yet attend a course on inclusion, we have definitely something even more to offer you. So very nice to have started with this poll. I will now share my small presentation. Voilà, so we will present a bit about our project on inclusion of persons with disabilities first, and that will be very quick. We always start with what became the slogan of our project, how to eat an elephant, and the answer is bit by bit. So don't be afraid about any big project on inclusion. Always just start by something. Don't necessarily be afraid but all what you have to do, but I think, okay, let's start with something, and it's a good approach when it comes to inclusion from our experience. So what I would like to present you is just a short introduction on the project on inclusion of persons with disabilities, which is what we call a TIC project in MSF. So TIC stands from Transformational Investment Capacity, and it's a big international initiative in MSF to plan for projects which can make a major difference inside MSF. So we will present present you a bit about this project, what the project can offer, and why it is particularly relevant for this setting. So first of all, I think it's quite important to define what we mean by person with disabilities. We use here the definition of the UN Convention, the United Nations Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities, which makes a distinction between disability and impairment. An impairment, for example, a sensory impairment or a physical impairment. And it is the interaction between this impairment and an environment that is itself more or less disabling that creates the disability. That is what the disability is about, at the crossroad between an impairment and an environment more or less disabling. So this is a human rights approach which emphasizes the role of the society and of all actors to create an environment as little disabling as possible and therefore as much inclusive as possible. So I would like to remind particularly for all the ones who are in MSF that we have a motion on inclusion of persons with disabilities, an associative motion that has been passed in 2016, and that was clearly stating that MSF should, has a responsibility and should develop awareness on the risk of exclusion of persons with disabilities in its project, that we should develop a dialogue with DPOs. What we call DPOs are disabled people organizations, meaning organization representative of persons with disabilities. So we should enter in dialogue in our efforts of inclusion with these organizations, and we should work on accessibility of our structures and of our communication. So this is a motion that we have in MSF and on which we can rely on when we want particularly to work to build more accessible. Well, the objective of our project were really, so it's a project that we started in 2018. And the objective of the project was really to kick off the implementation of this motion through the provision of tools and resources and also support for MSF to become more inclusive. So that's what our project is about. And the rationale for this project, and I think it's quite important, is that it starts with our missions, with our operations, with our medical aspect. And it starts with a simple question: who are the patients who do not reach MSF services? And we know from the experience of many organizations that persons with disabilities are a particularly vulnerable group, which has a lot of difficulties to access in many countries where we work, health facilities. So in that sense, it's our responsibility in MSF to identify and remove barriers that hamper the access for persons with disabilities to our medical services. And for that, one also solution to remove these barriers is also to ourselves recruit persons with disabilities among our staff, which is what we are promoting also in the project, meaning we become an organization overall inclusive of persons with disabilities, and this is our human resources component. So starting with operational and medical component, we reach a human resources component for the project. So what the project can offer is a portal and a newsletter. So you will all receive the presentation and you have the link to our portal. You can register to our newsletter, which is available. Portal and newsletter are available in English, French, and Arabic. You will find there tools, a possibility of experience sharing. So really experience sharing is important. So if you see and if you have any experience that you would like to share on inclusion, do not hesitate to send us information and we will be very happy to post it on our portal and to share in our newsletters. We have so a lot of various materials on this portal. One tool that is very interesting for everyone to know is that we have a small video of 5 minutes to raise awareness that is associated with a small guideline. And this video is available in English, French, Arabic, and Spanish. So a very good tool, 5 minutes to raise awareness in your office project or organization, and that is associated with a small guideline. I will not go through it. And also, as a second tool, we have a e-learning course that is really the result of a strong collaboration with an organization representative of persons with disabilities. It's a 90-minute course online, which is available for everyone, which is accessible on this portal, on our portal, with the link that is here on the presentation, but also for people who are inside MSF and who have access to the Tembo platform, which is our internal training platform. You will find also this training on Tembo, accessible on Tembo. Voilà, so a very interesting second tool that I really recommend to all the one who didn't do training yet on inclusion generally. Really, you will enjoy it. So offer you this training. And in this training, you will find definition, respectful terminology, how to interact with persons with disabilities, how to do a barrier analysis, so how to analyze the barrier that hamper access to our services for persons with disabilities, and different tools for field and headquarters. You will find also on our portal a communication toolbox with a glossary, editorial guidance. You will find the construction guidelines that will be presented by Paul and Cora after. And what, as a work in progress, what you will find also soon will be also guidance on inclusion in ICT, so information, communication, and technology. So also some work to come. It's a portal also for experience sharing. So as I said earlier, do not hesitate to share with us, and we will be able to share your experience within the overall MSF. And if you need any support from us, do not hesitate to contact us, or Sani or myself, in the TIC project team. Voilà. This being said, there may be also some people here working more generally on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it's all about inclusion. What we have on our portal is also very, very relevant and fits a lot, I think, the reflection on diversity, equity, and inclusion at large. So next step after this, and why I did this short presentation, is that the message brought by this short presentation is that whatever work you do on accessibility, remember to do that work in collaboration with the community, and particularly in collaboration with organizations representative of persons with disabilities. And remember to raise awareness in your team so that they get also a broad understanding of what inclusion is about. So voilà, in the presentation, you will have all the link to our portal, e-training, as well as both Sani and myself email address. So do not hesitate to contact us, may you need anything. So thanks a lot for this, and I will leave now the floor to Sani in case there is any question. So Sani, is there any burning questions that we should answer now, or do we leave the floor to Paul directly?
There are no burning questions which would kind of urgently need to be clarified. So Paul, it's to you.
Okay. Hello, good morning and good afternoon to everyone. It's nice to have you here. Nice to participate in this in the first webinar together with Patrice and Sani and Cora, of course. I am Paul. I'm the technical advisor for construction and shelter for OCBA, and today we're going to make like a very short and brief introduction of the Accessibility and Inclusive Design Handbook. So this is the image that you are seeing on your screen. This is the main cover of this manual with two images. What is inside? I hope some of you are familiar with this document. The idea is not really go through not to really navigate through this document, but I rather would like to transmit some like core message, and I would like to share with you what I think should be the limits and the challenge whenever we want to use this document in our projects. So a really short story about this handbook. Well, has been done fully during the pandemic. At some point in April of 2020, we have an extra resource who was an architect who worked collaborating with NSF in other department. She couldn't make her job because the pandemic. And basically we draft an index together, and then she developed it, and with the guidance of Watson, hygiene promoters, and myself, we developed the full context. By the way, is in the audience, Carmen. Nice to have you here. Well. You saw in the presentation of this webinar that this is the first NSF accessible and inclusive document. That doesn't mean that other sections, or at the time that we have to design an accessible or inclusive project, that doesn't mean that we didn't have any other documents. Indeed, as in the really nice website of Inclusion and Disability, you can find other documents like the International Federation of Red Cross, and as well the Handicap International document, and a lot of all documentation. All of them, they are inside the toolbox of this thick site, so you please consult them. So you will wonder why we need to have an other document if we have already existing one. So I will say that mainly there are two reasons for the making of this handbook. The first one is that finally we have an NSF one, so the staff and person who are working in our projects, it will appropriate this document as their own document, and also because we try to draft it a little bit more like for the NSF ecosystem, okay. And secondly, I will say that this I don't want to compare with the other documents, but I will say that this document is a little bit more adapted to our projects. Is for like a kind of small scale, not only urban settings. It's only 10 pages documents, so really easy to navigate, user-friendly, and we wanted to be sure that everyone will read it and will access to them. Like the basics in constructions that we have in OCDA, I would say that this document will be like the basics for accessibility and inclusion. The next slide, please. So in these slides, there are like 4 objectives or 4 messages that I wanted to just meet in this presentation. And one, in the last point, is only where are we going now? So the first one will be raise the awareness. So like Patrice mentioned, it is try to sensitize our staff, try to spread the message like we are doing right now in this moment. The second point will be why we need to take a look on the safety and comfort whenever we are making an intervention. The third point will be try to put the recommendations of this handbook in the right context. The fourth one is not try to explain why this document and why our recommendations are not a top-down approach. And finally, I will mention to you what are we doing now and what will be the next step. Some of these points are in the reforms of good practices page that at the end of our document. The image that you are seeing, the picture you are seeing now is There are 3 persons in a waiting area in the MSF Sika Hospital in Bangui. This has been done by OCP, if I'm not mistaken. This is a surgical trauma facility with a lot of with services in rehabilitation and physiotherapy. And of course, when I think about this hospital, of course, this facility should be under the standards of inclusion and disability, because most of the patients, a larger number of patients will fall in this category. But I have a question to you to try to make you reflect on this regard. And my question is the following one: do we have to wait to have a health facility or a full hospital with specialization in physiotherapy and trauma to make all our facilities accessible? So try to think about this for a moment. Well, could be tricky questions because I'm saying all the facility should be accessible. But the point is, the answer is no. So we don't have to wait that our healthcare structure has these specializations. We have to remember that according with the recommendations that we are putting inside this document, inside the handbook, when we are mentioning latrines and showers to make accessible, we are not talking about all the latrines and all the showers, but just we are talking about a minimum ratio of this latrine and shower. So we don't have to think and make all our facilities accessible, but we must consider that some patients with impairments or with disability could make use of some of our structures. Okay, so next slide, please. In this picture, you see abandoned wheelchair. I don't remember which hospital is this. But my consideration and questions when I see this type of pictures is the following down. Why do I have to make facilities accessible to everyone, even if I rarely see wheelchairs? Because it's true, we don't see wheelchairs or people with huge impairments in our projects. And in a recent chat with Sunny for an interview, I mentioned that when facilities are not accessible, the patients with disability are not coming, and when they are not coming to our structures, it gives the impressions that there are not people or any people with disabilities. And so there is no need to design for them, okay? And we don't design, we don't change the existing facilities. I think the most sad part of this is that this is the message that we are transmitting and passing to the community, and this is the message that we are passing to the relatives of these persons and to the person with the main disability. But I have a suggestion for you. It's something, an exercise that you can do in 5 minutes, wherever you are in your projects. And my suggestion, my exercise is, if you are working in a hospital or in a big health center, if you have a ramp with an access for a stretcher, because mainly we make ramps for stretchers, because there is no way that we can carry the stretcher with the patient inside our facilities. Try to see and watch attentively how many persons are using this ramp instead of using the stairs. Okay, and also try to watch which type of persons are using this ramp. Okay. And the reason is that, well, and after you see this, after you will check this, you will do this exercise, you will see there will be more people using the ramp than the stairs, and most of them will be childs, pregnant women, elderly populations, etc. And the reason behind is we are with this ramp that was not designed for them. With this ramp, we are making the life easier. So the individuals with disabilities and the relatives and their needs must be inside somehow in the development of any of our projects. The next slide, please. Just to finish the message about the raise the awareness. So we with this handbook, we didn't want to arrive to only the logs, okay? But we wanted to arrive to other people of our staff through the logs, who interacts with patients and with relatives, like community health workers, hygiene promoters, and medical staff, and so on. Well, as a medical organization, I think we are quite lucky, at least as a NSF. We have many resources that could be used for the purposes of raise the awareness, and in this case, for the purpose of give access and try to include persons with different capacities. Awareness raising activities must be carried out by our staff as well, and we can do it by our health promoters. Educate and inform the staff and community about the rights of the vulnerable people, like elderly, like I mentioned before, children, or people with functional diversities or with reduced mobility. Need to have a safe access to water quality, sanitation facilities, and medical infrastructures, and this will be one of our main goals. The next one, please. So safe and comfortable. Well, this is the latest project that I visit in a field visit is in Congo. It was a health center, and like in many other cases, MSF arrived there, and instead to be a health center, it becomes a full hospital. And whenever it passes this, because we have to build and extend and make strong rehabilitations, whenever this happens, we have to, mainly the problems that we have is the lack of space. And this is another case. So in the picture you are seeing one corridor, and in the middle there is open drainage. We made this open drainage because one of the main problems when we decide that we will go for full constructions and rehabilitations was to try to tackle the problem of the huge amount of rainwater that we were having this. So one of the first things that we made was try to canalize the rainwater in this open drainage. But as soon as you see this picture, so the question is, this is already difficult for any persons to walk there. In the time of my visit, I had at least three comments of 3 questions from the staff, expat, national, and one person from I think a caretaker from inside the hospital. At least 3 persons say to me, why we are living this like this. So can you imagine to pass through this corridor with somebody who has a crutch or with a walking stick? So if I have to say something in our favors, is that in fact this is a new construction. and we soon we're gonna cover this the drainage. Anyway, we need to be covered. Now we have to decide how to cover to allow that any patients and any person with disability can cross this corridor. Well, but that's a different story regarding this. You see a room in there that maybe we can remove it and make it wider the corridor, but that's well, that's another story. But I want you to keep in mind these pictures whenever you need to make considerations regarding the standards in new constructions, because your new construction must be safe for all, and even more for patients with disabilities. Next slide, please. But my questions in this, so before it was very clear, we had a new constructions, and we're gonna make all the considerations, and we will try to make the environment more safe for everyone and for persons with any other problems. But what happened with all regular projects, and well, this is an example. The picture you're seeing is some children in an open space, with open drainage on the right. And what happened? So MSF arrived to this facility long time ago, and sadly the staff, the expats, the national, we get used to this type of context, and after a while of being working there, we don't even see the problems that this open drainage can provocate to our patients. In the other hand, we have to admit that always we have lack of resources. So indeed, yes, we can translate this in terms of money. Cover and make rehabilitations and make it everything safer can be translated in terms of money. It's true that if we do safe facilities to everyone, it's already a big step. But when we say everyone, means everyone, and we must to translate this also to the most vulnerable people. So please as well keep in mind this picture whenever you are as a consideration, whenever you have in mind to make rehabilitations to existing facilities. The next slide, please. So put our guidelines in the right context. In the pictures you see really basic traditional construction. I have to say this is a health center in the periphery of one of our referral hospitals in CAR. When I mention put in context and you see this image, of course, it could seem like a kind of exaggerated as example, but I wanted to make this point clear. When I say put in context, we are talking about cultural context, cultural social context, access and supply, security, and the resources that we have. For this particular case, so MSF was mainly working in the referral hospital, and they were doing. At some point they realized that to try to expand the services and try to get more population coming to our hospitals, we have to also support somehow the periphery health centers, and this is the pictures of one of them. We are doing in here only like really basic support, okay, and just drugs and basic supply. But of course, this is just to show that we will not gonna invest in this kind of structure, because the context, access, supply, security, and resources could be quite quite complicated. From the cultural point of view, we have to make some questions. So persons with disabilities will be accepted or marginalized by the community. So we have to reach to them and try to see if they can come to our facilities. Access and supply could be more. Access and supply could be more complicated, but not impossible. But let's say that maybe there are other priorities, or maybe we have a few patients coming to our facilities. The truth here is that we will not do like the full let's say like the full package of accessibility and inclusion. Well, just to finish with these pictures, I visited this place some years ago. Now it's a nice permanent health center done with bricks and iron sheet, but it still is very basic. And because the context, we didn't even think about enter to this to the full package of inclusion. And then a few weeks ago, because we were working in this is in CAR as well, because we were working in the referral hospital, we knew that because security issues, MSF is not visiting anymore this structure at the day of today. So that makes a little bit more complicated everything. The next slide, please. So this is a full hospital in the middle of the mountains. This is in Congo. The project is called is in Kusisa, South Kivu. MSF made everything from scratch, okay, and so from the design till the construction is a full MSF hospital. It might seem that that in the places is not like a justified project. For the number of the population in this community, it might seem that it's not fully justified, but it was more like a strategic decisions, because there were a lot of displaced populations in the surrounded areas. So the hospital is working perfectly. We have the patients that we thought that we were gonna have. The strategy was in the right way. But just to mention how complex it was, so at the time of the construction, so the only way to supply for the construction was by helicopter or by motorbike. Of course, the helicopter has a price, and the only one of the few things that we deliver in helicopter was the solar panel, because there was not other way to do it. But talking with can you imagine if we have some ramps and we have some points that need to be improved, of course, in terms of accessibility. But my let's say my point is here is, can you imagine if I need to talk with the FILCO and say, okay, we have to prioritize this, and so leave some other things out because the cost of the cement to bring in here, make full ramps for all the wards, all the latrines, etc. So it has a cost. It needs to be taken in consideration. It needs to be put in context. This is, like I said, this was in Congo. And by the way, in my field visit to the other project in Congo, we have some security issues as well. So it comes again to the access, to the supply, to the resources that we have on the ground. The next slide, please. So in this picture, you are seeing a group of people in a meeting. So I was talking with my colleague from OCG a few days ago, and we were talking about this webinar, and he was mentioning the difficulties that he have in some of his projects and some of the OCG projects whenever he tries to align the accessibility and inclusion on the project, mainly because they need to align as well all the operational and all the medical priorities to these to the inclusive and accessibility priorities. Just to make one really short example, he mentioned it to me. He says, okay, let's see that we need a wider corridor to access to adult work. But to make this wide corridor, of course, you need like a wider door. If you put a wider door, you might lose in both sides of the wall of your wall. You more lost space for two more beds, and so at that point you have to question to what you're going to give the priority. Okay, how can you find the right balance between the goal that you want to reach with your inclusion and accessibility concept, and how much you will have to compromise with the medical and operational needs. So I put the picture of this person discussing, because I think it's the only way that we can arrive to the right decisions. So sharing the challenge and experience will be like the only way to shape what we intended to do with the project of inclusion and accessibility. So in the, let's say as a technical advisor, we make recommendations, but always need to be landed and to be realistic with what is happening in the field. So that's why I'm saying this is not a top-down approach. So it have to be always discussed, and there have to be a feedback from the people that are working on the ground. The next, please. So this is DRC is always the same project that we visited before. Is the most recent construction project that I've been visited, where we are implemented in using this the documents about inclusive design. In the picture you see two ramps is the same from the two different points of view. And this is exactly the same structure where you see the open drainage for from rainwaters. So in the handbook is mentioned some of the standards about corridors, access ramps, latrines, showers, and sizes. But the question will be, how do we do this? Okay, and how we land all these numbers and figures to the ground. So like I said before, our role as a technical advisor during the design of the new construction is pretty clear. I go straight to my focal point in there. In that case, it will be the law constructor. Whenever I have new constructions, we are already doing recommendations for to accomplish the ratio of for any block of latrines, at least to put one latrine with the ramp and with the size that it needs to be, and the same for the shower, access for the buildings. But this is clear, and this, let's say, that is pretty simple for new constructions. But my question will be, what about the existing structure? Please, the next slide. So this is the picture of the same structure with the latrine on the right side. Well, how we gonna get to so I'm saying for the first let's say for the first phase, trying to go from the theoretical to the practical. So it's quite easy for the new constructions, because I will be sure that we are giving the instructions to the local constructor and fulfill these standards. As a next step for the existing construction, so we will try to create a tool in this regard, to make like a really quick evaluations, kind of checklist, to make a 5-minute walk to your facility, and to see, okay, according with the context, according with all the considerations that we can make together with the medical and together with the in trying to balance with the priority, we will get kind of outcomes of this checklist that we can tell us clearly what it can be done, what is feasible, and like this we can plan in the future. Also try to tackle the existing MSF structure. At least this is the OCDA side. So let's say that there is no one single practical solution that fits to everyone's needs. But it should be more like a kind of mindset that everyone should benefit from. This is try to make sure that you think inclusively whenever you design. Either you build something from scratch, or either you make some rehabilitation. Just one last thing, remember that also our handbook is a live document, so any document is always welcome for improvements. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. And I think I saw that very quickly we didn't have a burning question in the chat. I think, Sani, you confirm with a little nodding of the head.
Yes,
so that
I hope, for example, Kati, Mohammed, and Jasper left really good questions, so we'll come back to them at the end.
Okay, excellent. So we leave directly the floor to Cora. Cora, the floor is yours. I let you introduce yourself and let me when you want your presentation up.
Hello, everybody. My name is Cora Valuar. I'm a project architect and architect office in Denmark. I became an accessibility auditor 2 years ago, which means with almost projects at my office, trying to help all the architects to complete the rules, regulations, and also do the scheme in accessibility for the certificate.
Cora, your sound is a bit broken for me. Can you try just to have your microphone a bit closer, maybe?
Yes, is it better?
Yes.
A bit better. As I was saying, I also work with helping with the schemes for accessibility certification in building council, which is like a. And at the end of June, I will be finishing a master thesis in universal design and inclusive architecture, and this is how I got in contact with SF. I had a need of a case, and I got to the right place. And why I had to orient my career towards accessibility, it is probably because my mom used to teach for children with disabilities back when in Argentina. And well, I had that picture in my head. So please, we start with the presentation. Okay. We start with the presentation, Patrice.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, here you are. So yeah, your sound, your voice is a little bit broken to me. So be sure to speak slowly and loudly and close to your microphone so that we get a chance to get you. Your sound is a bit broken for several participants. And try
Yeah, it
eventually
sounds
without
to
your microphone.
be, it sounds to me that the issue is the internet connection. So do you have, Cora, opportunity to connect to some other internet?
Yes, I'll try.
I
In
guess
I'm
the
trying at the
In
moment.
the meantime, while you try, just in the audience, do not hesitate to share also your experience of inclusion in the local chat. And life is about sharing, and inclusion is a lot about sharing. So if you are on a project inclusive, if you have some knowledge, if you have some links that you would like this audience to be aware about, do not hesitate to share in the local chat. That will be highly appreciated, and we will make sure that it's available in the recording.
Do you think you can hear me better now?
Now it's much better, much better
Much
to
better.
me. In the local chat, let us know also if it's better for you. Thank you. So you can
Okay.
go ahead.
Well, my presentation is going to be shortly about the difference between accessibility and universal design. We'll talk a little bit about the history. This is like an introduction, so it's not as with so many good examples like Paul had. So a little bit about the history of the barrier of the free movement. And the 7 principles and 8 goals of universal design and some examples. So next slide, please. This is a photo of the Danish Parliament building called Christiansborg. And I'm referring to this photo because when people ask me, what is universal design? I say, well, universal design is not about designing the nice ramp, the perfect slope, the 2 handrails in the right height. Universal design is about designing places that are for everybody, that give an equal experience. Either you have a disability or not, you are a child or an elderly person. Universal design is equal access and equal enjoyment and participation. So if you want to compare what accessibility is and universal design is, there's an easy way to remember, because accessibility rhymes with disability and universal design doesn't rhyme, but it's about the universe. So it's about everybody. So it's not just persons that have a problem to get through the town or the city or the building. So here you can see that there are steps, but there's still a way that you can go in the building with an open access in a democratic way. So next slide. This is a little bit about the history and where does this barrier-free design movement started. It started in the States, in the United States, in the late 50s, when they found out that the buildings were not accessible for the returning war veterans and the young people that had contracted polio during the post-war epidemic. The veterans and the wheelchair users became more visible in society, and in that way, disability was not longer hidden. Ronald Mays was born in 1941 in New Jersey, and at the age of 9, he contracted polio, and from there on, he became a wheelchair user. But he also became an architect and the founder of the Center of Universal Design at North Carolina State University. Already in 1985, Ron Mays introduced the universal design concept, being like this, the first one. And he said something like, the design of products and environments to be usable by all people to the greatest extent possible without the need for adaptation or specialized design. So Ron Mays, among other product designers, a group of engineers and researchers in design, worked out in '97 what is called the 7 principles, and this is what you can see in this slide, and is used as a guide for a wide range of design disciplines. Next slide. Sorry. I'm referring again to the United Nations conventions, like already Patrice did. And in the year 2006, when they wrote the convention and it was ratified and signed by many countries, the Article 2 defined again universal design with the same words as Ron Mays did. But they also expanded the concept with the last 2 sentences here, where you can say that universal design shall not exclude assistive devices for particular groups of persons with disabilities where this is needed. So that means that they want to include even more people. So the convention also talks about universal design in the Article 2 and in the Article 9 and the Article 29. And it is also very present in the 17 SDG goals, which are the Sustainable Development Goals for the United Nations Agenda for 2030, where the pledge that they use says, leave no one behind. Here again, we are talking about equality and equal possibilities, and yes, participation for everybody. Next slide. Edward Steinfeld and Jordana Massel, one is an architect, the other one is a landscape architect, and researchers from the University of Buffalo in New York. They developed the 8 goals of universal design in 2012. They were aiming to update the 7 principles, and with that, trying to clarify the concept of universal design, incorporate human performance, health and wellness, and social participation as outcomes, and like this, giving more relevance to contextual and cultural issues. Because contextual differences such as topography, economic development levels, cultural norms, and local values will influence always the design of the different buildings and places. So next slide. When we ask, universal design is for all, but who is all? I mean, each person is unique with a different vision, different hearing, mobility, cognitive and intellectual ability, age, gender, religion, dietary restrictions. Yeah, all is everybody. And for that, I'm going to show the first example that is in Danish, it's called Dansk Handicaphus, but it's the Danish house. Next slide, yes. The Danish house for persons with a disability. And this is a fantastic example of diversity, how design and diversity can work together. Is known as one of the most accessible office buildings in Europe. And there are many reasons why. They have many features that make it super accessible and universal design. At the office, a lot of people ask me, what is the perfect disabled restroom? And I said, well, in this building, there are 7 different types of restrooms. That means that there is no one that is perfect, because all the people we are all different. And here we can see we have a disabled restroom with a left approach, with a right approach. We have a huge restroom with a lot of devices for helping people with a lot of problems, motoric problems. And we also have small restrooms, because if there's a person with a vision impairment, they prefer smaller restrooms where one can sense where the wall is and don't feel lost in this big room. That building, for example, works a lot with colors, illumination, and also marking on the floor, a sort of wayfinding. And for example, on the left, we have the green wall that shows 2 different heights of the reception desk. So they are trying to accommodate different individual needs, because one size fit all is not true. One size fit one, and universal design is not about fitting, but is about belonging. Next slide. There's some music and it's not me. This is a photo of an area close to where I live. It's a park, and this is just to show how important it is to hear the user, to understand their needs, their perspective, and how important it is to welcome everybody and to make the design as barrier-free as possible. The design should not create any discrimination, and the design should not be what is called the back door entrance. Next slide. And again, this is also close to where I live, and it's a bathing facility that is close also to the airport for the ones that live around. And the good thing here is to emphasize that universal design works a lot with the senses and how to stimulate the senses. And in this particular building, if you can call it building, the good thing is that you can go all the way to the end, to the wooden construction at the end that is called the Snile. And there you can jump into the water in the deep area and enjoy the water in this place without feeling insecure. You are always close to an edge, and in that sense is very good. And in the ramp to the left, there's a ramp and there's a handrail. So a lot of other user groups can also enjoy the beach and the water. For example, if you have an impairment, motoric impairment, or if you have a vision impairment, or even if you have a wheelchair, you can still go in the water through this ramp. So this is, yeah, just to show how one can work with the senses and incorporate more people as users. And the next slide. This is 2 pictures, and they are the ones that, well, one is the one that Paul already shown, is Kusisa in Congo, and the other photo is in Yemen, in Al Cannabis. And they are the 2 hospitals that they belong to. Well, there's MSF hospitals that I'm working and analyzing to see how the architecture and the built environment is designed, and how can maybe this be improved by universal design. And I've been having a lot of talks with Paul and Patrice, and especially with Paul, because well, the idea is to make an extension to the accessibility guideline handbook with some universal design guidelines. So 2 things I will say just to close up my short presentation or introduction to universal design is that universal design is as important as zero energy design or eco design or yeah, you name it in within buildings, because with ecological design, we sustainable design buildings, we protect the planet, but with universal design, we try to protect the people. So it is as important. And then in your projects, please try to incorporate accessibility and universal design as early as possible. And remember something that once I said to Patrice and he laughed, but it's true, it costs the same to do it wrong than do it right. So let's try to have it done right from the beginning. So that's all. Yes, that's a little bit, yeah, the awareness, the webinar, the implementation, and the universal design guideline checklist for the QC, the quality control of the projects.
Okay, thanks a lot, Cora. So I stop sharing and I give the floor back to Sunny, who will go to any burning question for Cora or to the next session about question and answers, and we'll have about 10 minutes for that last session. Sunny, the floor is yours.
So we could actually start with the second poll question. So we are launching polling now. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. So based on this, what you've heard today or your previous kind of thoughts, do you think you can apply accessibility and or universal design in your work? Also, now that we are not sharing anything anymore, please feel free to put your cameras back on. Nice to see everybody. So we have roughly soon 80% who voted. So I'm going to end this and share the results with you, which is very nice looking. So over 90% thinks they can apply somehow accessibility and universal design, which is very nice result. We had some questions earlier. Please feel free to, if you have any more, so please feel free to put them in the chat, but I could start with few we had. So maybe Kathy, you would like to ask yourself. I think Paul and Patrice can answer this, but let me see if Kathy is there. Yes.
Yes, hello. And hello, thank you very much, Patrice, Paul, and Cora for the presentation today. Very interesting. My question is if we've made any progress, where we've made progress in reducing the barriers for people who are disabled in terms of patients that could access. Do we have any idea of what percentage of patients we're talking about, whether we've improved it over the last few years, and how we're making a difference to understand the trajectory? And I'd be open to Paul or Patrice or Cora, yourself, or Sunny.
I leave the floor to Paul because I know that he has been doing a lot of efforts on that, and he has a bit some information, particularly for the OCBA, for the Operational Center of Barcelona Athens.
Well, the point is that we didn't have really numbers and figures of this. It's not something that is quite new, but it's difficult to access to the information, especially because in most of the contexts, the situation of a person with disability are quite marginalized. And so we have to start with this first step to try to reach the information later on. Like I said before, just in urban context, we made a few interventions to make our structure accessible, but in rural is quite rural or out of the urban context is quite something quite new. And yeah, since we started with these guidelines, we are trying to do it a little bit more systematic for the new construction, but the numbers of how many people we are reaching is quite unknown.
We don't have so much to add. I think Katie knows that I'm struggling with that, and she's always reminding me that I should do more work on that. And on this question, in fact, that is really a very good one. Don't hesitate in the chat to comment if you have experience from the field, if you have data, if you have figures. It's definitely one of the big steps ahead. It's really to try to get data in collaboration with the operations and medical department on one end, and also what we are working with HR to get data also about our staff with disabilities within MSF. So it's twofold on which that are definitely among the next steps for the project, is to try really to collect data about this and be able to monitor our work. I think
if I could just make one suggestion, Patrice, because I think a systematic approach to this will be nearly impossible. You know, how many of the 450 projects, how many of our, 28 offices? But you have a network of thousands of people who have accessed the disabilities website, and you have email addresses. It would be good if we could think of a ground up way of saying, okay, when you walk around your project site, when you walk around your mission, when you're in your office, and report some way. So I'm going to challenge you to think of a groundswell, grassroots approach to this. And it's not going to be perfect, but I guarantee you can come up with a number faster than doing it in a systematic way.
Kind of sampling.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so don't hesitate on that.
Network.
Yes, no, very good. So don't hesitate in the chat. In fact, if you want to contribute there to that sampling already, don't hesitate to write your experience in the local chat. I give back the floor to Sani for more questions. And thanks a lot, Katie, for this one. I knew that it was going to come, so thanks a lot for bringing it here. It's very, very relevant in that setting.
So there is, I checked that Apollinaire Otabella is still here. Do you want to say your question yourself? You are on mute if you're, Apollinaire had a question for Paul. And it was, should we systemically adapt all our constructions to vulnerable people, knowing that in majority of MSF projects, we support local structures and that the majority of their infrastructure are old? Do you have any thoughts on that, Paul?
Well, yes, and I will not say that most of our facilities are old, but in case they are old, anyway, we have to make interventions because you have to see with the slide about safety and comfortable. Because anyway, we have to make our facilities safe. We have to make our facilities standard according with the MSF medical needs. So anyway, rehabilitations need to be ongoing and really make facilities accessible as really a small percentage compared with the cost of big exhaustive rehabilitations intervention. So if it's in the possibility to make it, yes. I don't know if he was intending like all like structural problems or any other like serious problem. But anyway, if we're gonna enter to the facility, it has been decided that also structural damage need to be repaired, and because we're gonna go inside, I think the accessibility part is worth it.
And I saw also that maybe there is a question that just come up for you. How can we adapt this approach in our emergency intervention? Is it something also you want to comment on, Paul?
Well, there is a It's not covered by the manuals that we did because it was a more simple approach. But if you check that in your TIC in the TIC site, there is a really nice handbook or manual from International Federation of the Red Cross, who is talking about disability during the emergency response. And it's quite I think it's quite complete, and they suggest, I mean, they strongly recommend that yes, it should be applied this concept even in emergency setups.
Mm-hmm. And I think we will take a last question maybe to Cora. We had prepared a question because we wanted to know, as you have these external eyes on MSF, what do you think of today's efforts of MSF regarding inclusion, accessibility, and universal design? As Cora, you have been now a bit more familiar with MSF, but you have still these external eyes. So what's your opinion about MSF work and approach today in this arena?
Hi again. Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that what I find is fantastic is that there's a lot of focus in the subject. When I tried to get in contact with you, I already found that there's the TIC. Sorry. I think it's very good that you have focus in your buildings, in your work, and also in trying to incorporate people with disabilities at your office and as a staff. I think that there's still a way to go to try to implement this in all the buildings, in the new ones and in the renovation projects. But as Paul was also explaining, it is something new. The guidelines are not very old, and the context many times decides so much that even though one has the best intentions, the things are not built as one wants to have them built. But I think MSF is doing a great effort in trying to incorporate accessibility, universal design now, and inclusion in general. Yeah.
Mm. So thanks a lot, Cora. I will take it from there to close the session, as I see we have just 2 minutes left. So it's a pity. We would have loved to have more time for questions. Thanks a lot to Annika for sharing her experience from Yemen. Thanks a lot to all the comments. Thanks to Kumar also for several really very, very important comments also that you posted. And I have just 2 minutes to close and to say a bit what's coming next. And first of all, so you will, after this webinar, receive a mail with the recording and a small evaluation form. Sunny will already post the link to the evaluation form in the local chat. So if you want to fill it up as soon as we finish, feel free. But thanks a million if you could take time to fill up the evaluation form so that we can really respond to the needs. Let us know if you would have liked it to be longer, different. It's very, very important for us. I would have liked to have a bit more space for questions, but that's we try to stick to 90 minutes because it's a reasonable time. So we will have the link soon coming in the chat. We will also respond, and if there is any questions that we missed, and we will check the local chat and we will answer to the questions. And really take your time to offer yourself this 90 minutes e-learning. So really, it's very valuable. I think a lot of people still can learn a lot from it. And Sunny will post the link to all these resources. We will follow with another webinar in autumn. So hope to see you then, and we will see the result, particularly of the work that Cora will be doing in the coming months. So I'm very, very excited by that. And finally, Human Resources is asking me to remind everyone everyone that if you are a logistician, our missions need really you at the moment. I saw that Kumar, did you want to say something? I think that you were burning to tell us something. So go ahead, Kumar. It's so nice to hear you and to see you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Patrice, and sorry for jumping in at the last minute. I just want to stress on the point that with the disability and the challenges that we face, especially with patients being in a very vulnerable situation, as part of the whole behavioral platform, we are trying to reach further and further to our patients and to the community. And this particular group is the most vulnerable, and therefore we have to make it easier for access towards them. And therefore the urgency of it is an extension, like I mentioned, of making a sort of a protection by including them into and having that accessibility to our projects. I mean, I just wanted to stress this because from the logistics and the architectural point of view, it's extremely key because we avoid the chicken and egg situation and we open up the doors which otherwise would have been closed without even us knowing it. So it's a very vulnerable and a very specific target population that we don't even know what's happening with. And this will only help us take our behavioral commitments and take our ethical behavior forward in a much open way. Sorry, and sorry to keep everyone in the last few minutes.
Don't be sorry, Kumar. I think I could not have ended up better this webinar than with what just you said. So thanks a lot for that. Thanks a lot for sharing this. It was really a beautiful way to finish this webinar. And so now really feel free to open your camera if you want to wave a goodbye to everybody. Thanks Zeyad, thanks Sunny, Paul, Cora, thank you everyone for attending. Sorry that we didn't have more time for discussion. And really, well, I will take a picture so that I keep memory of everyone. Thanks a lot to everyone for joining, and see you in autumn for the second part of this webinar with a bit all the work that Cora will be doing on universal design. So thanks a lot to all of you. Enjoy the rest of the day. Take care. Bye-bye.